And welcome everyone to race number 7 here in the PC League, where today obviously we will be driving in Austria in the Austrian Grand Prix here in Spielberg. We have 7 drivers who will be who will be driving for that race win today. I'm just going to put up some information for you, and we will be going right in and following the drivers that are on track. But at the moment, there's no drivers out on track, so we'll just go with some of the AI. Well, as we said, today the race is going to take place in Spielberg, Austria, at the Red Bull Ring. Obviously, one of the most interesting tracks of the Formula One calendar. And we will now go with Ziffler, who's the first driver to go out on the track here. Well, as I said, Spielberg, one of the most interesting tracks of the F1 calendar, because basically all corners are takeover points, so we should be able to see a lot of takeovers or a lot of battles in these standings in this race today. All the drivers having very good, performed very well in the last races, in the last couple of challenges here. Yesterday there was the Xbox race, and today there is the PC race, which has been postponed to Sunday for now, for this week. But obviously we will just concentrate ourselves on the PC race now, where we are in Q1 and still have about 15 minutes to look at if the drivers are able to finish on pole and where they will finish in this qualifying session. A little bit about the Red Bull Ring. Well, as I said, all corners are basically takeover points, because this whole track is very fast, with not so many strict corners, or it's very wide. We have 4.318 kilometers to race, and there's a yellow flag in sector 2 between a Haas and Mercedes, but it's not important to us. Meanwhile, we have Elliott here on pole position at the moment with a 1.4. A very fast lap for the Racing Point driver. Rath finishing on P2 right now. Also on the softs. Farideus gets himself the pole position, about 1 second faster than Elliott in the Racing Point. Well, as I said, as I was about to say, 4.318 kilometers, that's about 2.68 miles that the drivers have to do each lap, have to race each lap. Well, 10 corners that they have to face, and a lot of overtaking possibility as well, as we already said. And we have Ziffler on P11 finishing his first lap on P11, going back into the box here. Farideus instead is going to go for a second lap, going a little bit slower than before in sector 2, now over the curbs here and on the exit. But still, that's some good performance. And Blind is going to take himself P2 in his first lap of Q1, going out on the curbs to cut inside and bring a good exit onto the track here for the Red Bull. Sebo 55 also having gone out on track now, doing his first lap, as it seems a very solid time at the moment, very good time, 43 seconds into sector 3, 45.8 for sector 3, and now he still has all the time left to finish this lap. We're in 1 minute right now, and this is not going to be enough for P1, but it's going to be enough for P5. Very good lap from the McLaren. Well, some good performances from all of our drivers in recent weeks, or in the past weeks, obviously. We've had Elliott winning the last Grand Prix, if I remember. And Faraday's winning the 2 Grand Prix before that, so I believe that there is going to be a big fight between all of them at the top. Obviously, also Sebo and Blind wanting to get a good position, and Rath in the Alfa Romeo as well, who currently is in the pits. Faraday's on P1 now is happy with his lap, so he stays with it. And that one is going to be a little slow, as Sebo has gone off the track at the last corner there. And so we will go again with Elliott, who is now starting his next lap. Also trying to improve it, still on the mediums though. So he's very fast, because he's on P2 with the mediums doing a 1.4. If he would go on the softs, that obviously would bring him a little bit of an advantage now here, slipping a little bit on the track. But he is able to regain the advantage, and that right now is not as dangerous as it may be in Q3 or even in the race. Because slipping right now obviously will cost him some time, but he already has brought some time on the clock, so that is not that important. And here's slipping again, as we can see that the mediums now are losing a little bit of grip, especially when going onto the curbs. The Racing Point has lost a little bit of control of the car. Now drifting a little bit over the track, and he's going back into the pits. But still a very good qualifying session from the Racing Point as well. So now the only driver left out on track is Ziflock, who's trying to improve his time. But he is going slower, and on the softs as well, going a little bit wide in corner 1. Now about to enter corner 2, that was corner 2 and 3, or a little bit wide in corner 3, and so the exit is not as good, but still. A solid movement from the Alfa Romeo driver at the moment with the 1.8. Now, currently, all of the drivers are in the pits, and we will wait for them to retire so we can jump on to Q 2 exactly. But we are still waiting for another member of this Esport League, which is obviously why we will wait a little bit. So here we can see the results of Q1. Faradeo's getting the P1 on the softs, Elliot in the Racing Point on P2 in the on the mediums, Blind on P3 with the softs, and Sebo on P4 with the softs as well. So that was a great or very successful Q1 from Elliot in the Racing Point. We are now in Q2. Still waiting for the drivers to come out. Now we've got some AI drivers going out here. We've got Daniel Ricciardo, we can see the other drivers, but these drivers are all not important to us. The only ones that matter for us are obviously our drivers. And so we have Sebo now leaving the pits as well. So we'll go a little bit with him. And he obviously knows that he can do this outlap a little bit slower. He doesn't have to go that fast, so he leaves Norris some space to pass him. Rath also in his outlap, as well as Faradeos. Elliot as well. Blind 30 still in the pits. So now slowly all of the drivers are going out onto the track to get that time on the board. With still 13 minutes left for the drivers to perform. And as Sebo will start his first lap, going into corner 1 very good, and closing in here on corner 2, out in corner 3, which is one of the most difficult. Solid corner 3 here from Sebo 55 in the McLaren. Now on the straight where he can use the DRS to gain some speed and become a little bit faster. That's a good corner 4, and again on the straight, closing in. That one is also a difficult corner because you have to like keep the car there, but he's going to do a faster sector 1, going a little bit off the curb onto the grass, but he can stay with the car on the track. Now closing in here a little bit, again on the curbs and going off track a little, which is obviously going to give him a little bit of time loss. At the moment he does have pole position, but the last corner is giving Sebo 55 some problems, as he's often going off track. Faradeos being now the one having the pole position in hand, and Elliot the one dropping down onto P3, even slower than Sebo 55, still on the mediums, and I presume that these are the mediums that he also used in Q1. As in the session before, he has been about 2 seconds faster than he has been right now. So we'll look at Sebo, who obviously is not going to improve his lap, but is going to go back into the pits. Faradeos is also going into the pits, and Elliot is going off the track here in the pit entrance, being ghosted by Faradeos as well. We can see a little bit of front wing damage And Blind 30 in the Red Bull, doing a very good lap here and getting himself the pole position at the moment. Elliott is retired from the session as well as Farideos. And Blind 30 is still trying to improve his lap. Now a little bit of contact between him and the AlphaTauri, if I'm not wrong. If I was able to see that, yes, between him and Gasly. This obviously could have ended very badly. Rath now still on P11, trying to get a good position here. And to get into Q3, where all of our drivers deserve to be. And that's a solid lap from Rath, going on to P5 here for the Alfa Romeo driver, on the mediums as well. Hello, fight as it seems between him and Gasly, who's lagging a little bit, as well as the Renault there. Blind now currently in the pits as well, and we've got a yellow flag between two drivers there, the Renault and the AlphaTauri. Well, that obviously is not very important for us, or to us. We only want to concentrate ourselves on our drivers, which now currently are all situated into the pits, or in the pits. The only driver being out on track is Rath at the moment. We've got a yellow flag, and Sebo is also retired from this session, so that we can jump into Q3. The AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly now obviously losing a little bit of time, so he has to drop back. And now Rath also going into the pits. And Gasly is also getting a 5-place grid penalty for that interference there with the Renault. I'm not quite sure if it was Ricciardo or Ocon, but it obviously doesn't even matter to us. We only concentrate on our drivers, as Rath now is on P5 and no drivers are out on the pits, out on the track at the moment. 7 minutes remaining. If any of our drivers still want to improve this this time, or their times, Rath has retired from the session as well, and we are waiting for the other drivers to retire. So now that all drivers are through into Q3, we can now take a look at the board at the moment. Blind 30 has gained P1 from Farideos. Farideos in the Ferrari on P2. And now we will go on to take a look, or to see whether the drivers will be able to improve their times and which of the drivers is going to finish on the pole position and start the race in Spielberg from P1. Let's take a look. We could see a Renault leaving the pits, as well as Mercedes, a Racing Point, 2 Ferraris, another Mercedes, and the Red Bull of Blind 30 now going out here as well. Here we are. Now Blind 30 using this out lap to heat up his tyres a little bit. So Spielberg obviously is also a very historic track, as the first time of racing, the first time racing in Spielberg here in Austria was on 26 July 1969, but then it was closed due to renovations, which then reopened, which is why the track then reopened in 2011. And the Formula 1 is racing on the track on the Red Bull Ring since 2014. So 2014 has been the first F1 track, F1 race here. Blind 30 going a little bit wide in corner 1, which is also a great moment for us to refocus on this race and on this track again. Blind now, still in his first lap, and we can see Elliott, who has got himself the pole position. Now Faraday steals the pole position with about 0.4 of a second between the two drivers. Elliott on P2, Blind on P3, and Rath on P4, as well as Sebo and the McLaren on P5. And we'll now look at the drivers. If this is going to stay like this for the last 10 minutes, for the next about 8.5 minutes, in which the drivers can improve their times, we now are going with Sebo, who is currently on P5 and obviously is going to try to improve his lap to get a better lap time and maybe finish on pole or even higher on pole, or a little bit lower, but a little bit higher than his current position is what I wanted to say. I'm very sorry for that mistake. But now he is going back into the pits to put on a new set of tyres. Faraday and Elliott also in the pits. Blind now going for another lap. He really wants that pole position. And there's a yellow flag here with Rath, who's going slower. And now going off the track. I believe the tyres are very much used off for the Alfa Romeo, now going back on track. And there we have the yellow flag, but as well another yellow flag for Blind 30, who now is going back into the pits, and Sebo, who is trying to get a better lap time. Rath has retired from the session. Blind has retired from the session on P3, and Elliott is also on his out lap to maybe get that pole position that he also had in Baku But in the end, it wasn't as useful. So now Elliot has been able to get the pole position back that he really wanted. The Racing Point has done a very good lap. Racing Point driver, obviously. Sebo still out on track, but 2 seconds slower than Elliot, and now about 1 second slower than Elliot, as Sebo has been able to get P4. And that was a very good performance here from Sebo as well, but obviously also from Elliot. Who's now going back into the pits, as he's very happy, or as he can be very happy with his lap here. 3 minutes to go. Sebo may try to improve his lap time, but it doesn't look like he is going to improve his time. So now let's take a look at the rest. Now Sebo is going to retire as well, probably going back into the pits. Elliot is on pole, Faraday is on P2, Blind 30 in the Red Bull lining up beside Sebo 55 on P4, so Blind on P3 and Wrath on P5, and we obviously also have Ziflock on P18, who unfortunately left this session in Q1. Now we will wait for Sebo. Maybe he is going to go out for another lap again. We are very excited to start this race here in Austria, as in my opinion, and it seems like he really is going out for another lap. 2 minutes left on the clock for Sebo 55 to finish a whole out lap and a whole lap to get a better time here on the clock. The McLaren doesn't want to give up here and is not happy. He's not satisfied with P4. Going on to the curves here. Now into the chicane. Good exit. Very well done. Nice movement, and if he's now going to be able to repeat that very fast lap here, that very good out lap, if he's going to be able to do that as well in his lap, then he may be able to improve his time. That's a good start, a good corner 1 here for the McLaren. He's going a little bit faster now into corner 2. That's a solid in corner 3. I'm sorry, that's a solid corner 3 on the straight. He's going to use the DRS onto his advantage, going about 320 kilometers per hour. Very nice moves here for the McLaren driver, for Sebo 55, cutting again into corner number 4, going on to the curbs, now into 6 and 7 with a little chicane, and on the straight again. And now into the last corner, going off a little bit off the track. We'll see if that brought him something. No, it didn't. It didn't. He's been a little bit slower. And now, that was the last chance for Sebo to improve his lap, obviously. But unfortunately, he just couldn't finish better than before. And now all the drivers have retired from the session. And we will jump into the race with Elliott on pole, Faraday on P2 in the Ferrari, Blind 30 in the Red Bull on P3, Sebo on P4, and Rath on P5. We also have another driver joining this session with Clutch. And we are racing with rain, which obviously is a circumstance, or rain is a circumstance which in racing is not something that you wish to happen, as racing in the rain is way more difficult than racing on the dry track. So now the drivers will go out. In the formation lap here in Austria. Elliott having done a very fast pole position with a 1.3. And Clutch King, who is now the new partner of Elliott in the Racing Point, so the new Racing Point team, is disqualified from the formation lap at the moment, as he's had a little collision between him and Pierre Gasly. So Elliott on the intermediates, as well as Faraday and Blind and Sebo and Rath on P5 here. All the drivers now going back into the grid to start this Grand Prix in the wet rain. So on this very fast track. And here we go. There is going to be a lot to see this race. A lot of fight, a lot of challenging. Elliott starting from the pole, Faraday starting on P2, Blind on P3, Sebo on P4 and Rath on P5. And now the race will start as Elliott is going to have a very slow start. Blind is trying to go there over the outside. Sebo gains P2 and Faraday is on P1 as he goes past Elliott, who's dropping down to P7 after a very slow and unsuccessful start for the Racing Point, who had claimed the pole position in the qualifying session. Sebo on P2, Blind on P3 and Faraday on P1, going a very bit faster than everyone else here. We can see Elliott, who's fighting back from P7 to P5, overtaking Rath here. That was a good move on the Alfa Romeo. He obviously has to leave the space. Now Elliott back on P4 and he's going to try to go back. Lewis Hamilton getting back that position here. And we still have Rath on P6 also trying to go past the Racing Point. And it's not that much now, trying to go over the outside. Elliott has to leave the space, and it's enough for Rath to take over P5. No, it's still Elliott going into the pits. Faraday's fastest lap, and Rath is on P5. Elliott dropping down as he probably has had some front wing damage. Clutch King on P15, and there is a fight between Blind 30, Sebo 55, and Faraday's in the top three here. They all are not that far away from each other. Blind, good corner. Sebo a little bit slippery there, but that's normal in the wet weather. Some very good moves here. Clutch King fighting back on P12 right now, starting from P18, where currently Elliott is situated. Zivlock still on P17, and Clutch is now fighting for that P11 between him and Lando Norris, but we will still look out on the top three, where it is the most interesting battle at the moment between Blind and Sebo. Half a second of difference between the two drivers. Sebo and Blind both going a little bit off the track. Sebo now going off the track a little bit as well, and now maybe on the straight the Red Bull is able to use his speed to get back, but especially in the wet rain, some late braking is definitely the wrong weapon to use, as it is obviously a double-sided knife. So if you are going to brake late, that is also something that you could take some consequences from. Rath now on P4, but we will still stay with the two drivers here. Blind going faster and faster now. About 2 seconds, 2/10 left, and there is Blind 30 hitting Sebo 55 with his front wing, losing a little bit off the front wing as well, obviously, as we can see now, going very much slower, and he probably has to go into the pits as he was trying to go over the outside to make a move on the outside, and Sebo is trying to do the same on Faraday's. Just half a second left, or half a second of distance between Sebo 55. Faraday's going into the pits right now. Or is he? Yes, he is. And that has been a very interesting race start right now. Clutch King fighting back onto P9 from that P18, P19 start for him. Faraday is now exiting the pits on P14, 15. No, it's going to be P16 or even slower. No, he's going to come out on P16. The Ferrari driver losing a lot of time there. And Sebo now leading this Grand Prix. Currently leading this Grand Prix here in the wet rain of Spielberg. Blind on P2, about 8/10 of a difference, which is about a second between the two drivers, but we still have to take a look at the front wing situation from Sebo, whose front wing is absolutely fine, and Blind 30, whose front wing is not fine, whose front wing is damaged, and so he probably is going to go into the pits in the next laps. Wrath is obviously trying to fight a little bit to get some places here to maybe get P2 if Blind is going to go into the pits for that broken front wing. But at the moment it doesn't seem like Blind is having too much trouble with his front wing. And now take a look at Clutch King, who's fought back. Brilliant lap time and brilliant performance right now from Clutch King in the Racing Point. Starting from P19, currently on P5, and about half a second away from finishing or from overtaking Lewis Hamilton on P4. Look at that. The Racing Point here, the number 91, Clutch King doing a great performance right now. Some beautiful racing for the Racing Point. And look at that. Now, is he going to go past Lewis Hamilton on the straight? He's going to try it over the inside. And he is going to succeed. Not going off the track here. And here as well, he's going to stay on track to secure that P4. And now he's about 3 seconds away from Wrath. And Blind is still very much close to Sabo 55 in the McLaren, currently leading this Grand Prix. Now here we can see the two of them are not that far away from each other. Blind is trying to go over the inside. Will he get the space that he needs to go past? Yes, Sabo is giving the space. But Blind, can he use it now? Going past, Blind currently leading this Grand Prix, and he has done it. Brilliant move by the Red Bull. Fantastic move by Blind 30 to get himself that P1, but Sebo is fighting back. Sebo is fighting back. Faraday as well, now on P12, going back to fight for that for that first 3 spot here, for that podium spot, for that podium position as well, as Elliott currently on P14, dropping down both of them to that unfortunate event. Now fastest lap for Clutch King in the Racing Point, and his Racing Point partner now going faster and faster. Faraday is passing Lando Norris, and Elliott about to pass Lando Norris. And here is another change at the top of this Grand Prix. Sebo going past Blind 30 again, and Clutch King also passing Wrath onto P3. What is going on here at the top? Another move here from Blind over the outside. Is he going to be able to take P1? No, he's not. Sebo is fighting, and Blind still on the outside. Now trying to go over the inside. No, he cannot. He doesn't have enough space and enough pace to get to that P1. And Wrath is fighting back for that P3. He wants that podium spot, as well as obviously Faraday and Elliott, who are now trying to fight each other. But we are going to stay with this fight here, which is way more interesting. That fight at the top now on the straight. Maybe there's going to be a little change. Sebo a lot faster than Blind 30, or a little bit faster, as Blind doesn't have his front wing, but doesn't have parts of his front wing, but he still should be able to do something. He's going to try over the outside. Now, good move here over the inside. No, he cannot pass Sebo again, and Faraday is now moving up to P9 here, as well as Elliott, who's now about to move in front of Daniel Ricciardo. Yes, he does. And Sebo still trying to fight off Blind 30 at the top here. What a great battle that is between the McLaren and the Red Bull. Sebo 55 still on P1. And the Red Bull of Blind 30 is now going a little bit slower, keeping the distance between the two cars. As we can see a clear track guide here done by the cars, passing very fast, drying a little bit of the track, but it's still very wet. Now Sebo going off the track and Blind not going off the track, but losing a little bit of time, about half a second now between the two cars. He doesn't want to use his overtake button, so his ERS. And Clutch King is there as well. Half a second between Clutch King and Blind 30, so now there is a real fight at the top, as we've got Clutch King trying to get to P2, Blind to P1, and Sebo trying to defend both of the drivers, trying to get past him onto that P1. We'll just drop down a little as we have Elliott and Farideus fighting a little bit as well, and Farideus has stopped. No, it's Valtteri Bottas who has stopped right on the track. Now dropping down here we can see, and Farideus back on P9. Elliott currently on P7, fighting back to get into the points, to get into the top 5 here. Rath on P4, and Blind has lost P2 to Clutch King, who's now about to take that battle in hand between him and Sebo 55, and it's looking good. It's looking very good over the inside. Maybe it's going to be able, no, he's not going to be able to do that in corner number 1, but maybe he's going to be able to do that in corner number 2 or 3 on the straight with the DRS. Maybe now he is going to take the chance. Late braking, no, he's trying to go over the outside, and yes, at the moment he does. Now he's going a little bit off the track and giving away P2 as well, as Blind is now passing Clutch King again. That was just the thing that I said before. Late braking can be dangerous for you as well, and now that is just what happened. But here, Clutch King passing Blind 30 again onto P2, and he wants that pole. He wants that P1 from Sebo. Half a second between him and Sebo 55 in the McLaren, currently leading this Grand Prix after these 10 laps that we've already raced. Blind 30 now going faster and faster, trying to get back to P2. And at the moment, this Grand Prix is looking very, very interesting. We've got some very good racing from all of our drivers here. Farideus situated in on P9, the driver who has won the Holland Grand Prix in Zandvoort and the Baku Grand Prix, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And now here we can see Clutch King trying to go over the outside, passing Sebo, but he doesn't do that. He can't. He's not able, but now he does. Yes, we've got a new race leader here after lap number 11. Clutch King has passed Sebo 55 to get himself that P1. And I believe Elliott, the Racing Point partner, is obviously going to be a little bit grumpy about that, as he was having that pole position after a great Q3, or after a great qualifying session from the Racing Point partner here. But now it looks as Clutch King has fought back, and what a brilliant race it's been for the Racing Point, from P19 fighting back to P1. That is racing class. That is absolute brilliant, absolutely fantastic from the Racing Point. And Sebo going a little bit off the track, as well as Blind 30 now half a second, less than 2/10 away from Sebo 55. Is he going to be able to pass the McLaren? Trying to go over the inside now. They're not going wheel to wheel, but maybe now with the DRS. Blind does have some power in the Red Bull. Over the outside, but Sebo is not leaving the space that Blind would need. all that Blind does need to pass all of the drivers there. To pass Sebo. Rath now on P4 and Elliott on P5, about 12 seconds away. And Rath is trying to keep up with the top here. Sebo dropped down a little bit after Clutch King gained or took himself that P1. Sebo now about 3 seconds away from Clutch King, and Blind still half a second away from Sebo, fighting still for that P2 there, and Faradeus still on P9. That is a very great race from all of our drivers at the moment. We can see the position changes, and as I said, absolutely fantastic performance here from Clutch King at the moment. From P18 to from P19 to P1, that is close to the performance that Sergio Perez did in the Sakir Grand Prix, and we were about to see another overtake here from Blind 30, who has not given up yet on that P2 spot. And Sebo is looking very frustrated with having to defend or to keep Blind 30 always behind him. Maybe now on corner number 4 and 5. It is going to be able, no it's not. Onto another straight here. In the low chicane, where Blind is a little bit faster. Half a second still between the two. And Faradeus now 2 seconds away, losing 7 positions, and Elliott losing 4 after starting from pole, and Faradeus starting from P2. We didn't have that many stops right now, so no real pit lane entries. All the drivers are on the intermediates, and all of the drivers are doing a great performance at the moment. Really, really nice what they're doing. We can see now the distance between all of the drivers. Clutch King on P1, 4 seconds away from Sebo, also about 4 seconds away from Blind 30, who still is fighting for that P2. Rath on P4, Elliott on P5, Faradeus on P9, and Ziflock on P16. That's a good, very good performance from all of the drivers here. Now jumping down a little bit to look at Ziflock. Is he going to be able to pass Valtteri Bottas on P15? Now the race has been a little bit, has calmed down a little bit. The drivers are now releasing or dropping a little bit of that pushing energy that they had at the start of the race, which made it so super interesting and super fun to watch. Now we will obviously take a look at how it's going. Ziflock now being passed by Rath and Kvyat. Rath on P4, and Blind still half a second away from Sebo. And now we are on into lap number 16 here for Ziflock and the other drivers as well. It's looking like a little bit of problems for Sebo. with the friction. Now Sebo blue flagging the other drivers. Passing Valtteri Bottas. And Blind is slowing down, about 1 second away from Sebo 55. And at the moment we have Clutch King on P1. And we have had a yellow flag in Sector 2, or in the middle of Sector 2 right now. And now we do have some interesting fights, but not from our drivers. At the moment it's mainly the AI fighting against each other. Oh, and here we have another change as Sebo and Blind are fighting. That was the fight that I was speaking about, that I was talking about, that I really would have liked to see a little bit earlier. Now Sebo dropping down again and Blind getting on P2. Faraday passing Lewis Hamilton on P7. So now all of the drivers are situated between P1 and P6 except Ziflock, who is on P17, but he is doing a great race. And that's what I said before. Now there's the pit window opened right now for the one-stop strategy. And Sebo and the Red Bull of Blind 30 fighting. Sebo is looking like he is going into the pits. Faraday's now half a minute of distance between him and Elliott, and still all of the drivers have done a fantastic job so far. There you go. Now slowly all of the drivers are coming into the pits, or should come into the pits. Now we'll see if they are going to go into the pits, or if they are going into the pits. I'm sorry. So Blind is going into the pits, as is Sebo 55. Wrath is not going into the pits, but he's staying out for another lap. And that was a fast pit stop. As Elliott and Wrath are now on P2 and 3. So at the moment, there is a Racing Point podium. Brilliant performance from both drivers. Elliott just having had a fantastic qualifying session and then being a little bit unlucky at the start of the race. Clutch King instead having had no qualifying session and then being having had an incredible performance here in the race with 18 positions gained. Wrath on P2, Elliott on P3, and we'll see if he's going to go into the pits. But now we will follow Blind 30 and his fight against Sebo 55. The two drivers have both been into the pits, and now that means then maybe we can see a little bit of a fight. Yes, Blind is about to take that fight. He really wants to. Has the overtake button ready. And he's going to try to get a little bit of speed now. Staying on the outside, not trying to go for the inside there. The Red Bull currently on P5 with Faradeus on P6. And we still have a little bit of a fight here, as we have Elliott and Rath fighting. Norris as well. Elliott going a little bit out! And that has been dangerous. A good move, of course, but that one was dangerous. And Clutch King has dropped down as he's gone into the pits. So P3 right now for Clutch King. Oh, and he's slipping a little bit at the exit of the pits there. Not too successful here, and Magnussen behind him. So there's obviously a yellow flag for Clutch King. Elliott currently back on the position where he started this race on P1. Let's see if it's going to stay that way after going into the pits, which shouldn't take much time anymore. We've got Rath on P2 and Clutch King being passed by Sebo 55 and Blind 30. Both drivers passing Clutch King, and that is a race that at the moment is looking very, very good. Esteban Ocon has dropped out of the session, as well as Roman Grosjean no longer in this race. Ziflock is going to pass Esteban Ocon to get that P17. And now there's Blind, who's closest to passing Sebo 55 on that P3. And Rath and Elliott, both of them, still have to go into the pits. So it's currently looking like Sebo is on P1, Blind on P4, and Clutch King on P5. But we'll monitor everything at the moment. We'll monitor everything and we'll follow the race as it is going to develop itself further and further. Now here we can see Blind still fighting to keep up with Sebo 55 on P3. Let's take a look at Faradeus. He's going closer and closer to Clutch King. Is he going to be able to pass the racing point? And yes, he is. Faradeus has passed Clutch King on P6, currently on P5. The Ferrari driver is fighting himself back into the top 5 here. And obviously he wants to go back onto the podium. So now let's take a look at Rath and how he's going right now. We're now in lap 24, so about 12 to 13 laps to go. And Rath and Elliott both have decided to go for another strategy. And we can see Rath and Elliott both on very, very old intermediates. And now it has stopped to rain, and that is the reason why Clutch King is or has been so slow. He started back, he came out of the pits with softs on, and that obviously means that he's going to be a little bit slower than the other cars using intermediates on the wet track. Faraday is also with some very, very old intermediates on the car. And we will stay with Sebo and Blind, who both have not that much space between them. Is Blind going to be able to pass Sebo 55? No, he's not right now. Maybe now on the inside. Yes, he's going to try slip a little and losing a little bit of time. About 3/10 away. The two cars now, the McLaren. That has been a fight that we've seen since the start of the race now. Blind trying to go over the outside, but the McLaren pushing him out a little bit. And he has to give the space that Sebo needs. That could have ended very badly, and we have another driver going out of the track. It is one of the race of the Alfa Romeos, but I believe it's Rath who's dropped out of this of the track. Yes, it was, as he's slipping a little bit with the car right now. And here we can see Elliott going into the pits right now. We've got Rath on P2 going into the pits as well, so that means that Sebo is currently leading this Grand Prix with Blind just behind him, fighting to get that position back. And now we will see if he's going to be able to do just that, if he is going to be able to maintain that position. There's the fight, the McLaren trying to keep the Red Bull behind him, to keep the Red Bull off. But it's not looking like this. Yes, it is pushing him out a little bit. The Red Bull now going back on track, and he's currently leading this Grand Prix. Yes, Blind 30 has gone on to P1, getting that. But the McLaren of Sebo 55 trying to go here, trying to pass him over the inside. A good move, but Blind is keeping up with the McLaren. And now again on the inside for the Red Bull, for the number 57, and McLaren is pushing him out. Sebo has pushed Blind 30 a little bit away, but the Red Bull is not giving up. No, he's absolutely not. 3/10 of distance between the two cars, and the Red Bull is fighting. Now he's going into the pits. We've got Sebo on P1, the leader of this Grand Prix, and Elliott after this pit stop on P3. Now on P2, and Rath on P3. Is Blind going to exit the pits faster than Faraday's passing by? And I believe, yes, he is. And now the fight at the top is Elliott and Sebo. And will Elliott be able to do a good performance? Yes, he will. P1 for Elliott in the Racing Point. Fantastic overtake for the Racing Point. And we can hear the crowd cheering as well. They were clapping right there. Clapping for the Racing Point. Also getting the fastest lap on this track. Drying up a little bit. Great moves here from all of the drivers. And the Racing Point is back on P1 where it belongs. After that pole position that Elliott was able to gain or to get. Now fastest lap for Fardeus in the Ferrari, passing Sebo 55 who's in the pits. And so we'll go back to Elliott in the Racing Point, who has a lapped Williams behind him, a blue flagged Williams behind him. Now Clutch King, the one with the fastest lap. And I'm very excited or interested in seeing whether Clutch King is going to get back to their podium spot after losing all of these positions. He still has about 7 laps to go. So there should be enough time for him. But you never know. So let's look at the outcome of this race right now. Good movement here again in Sector 2, going into Sector 3 for Clutch King. He's trying to get back. And we will now watch Wrath in the Alfa Romeo. Yes, Clutch King is going to be able to get that pole position. And as I said, the race now has calmed down a little bit again. The pit stops have brought a little bit of excitement into the drivers again, or a little bit of fighting spirit back on the track. Elliott now going with the fastest lap as well. And so now we'll obviously stick with the drivers and see whether we hopefully are going to see some other fights again. So there we can see there's about 2 seconds between Sebo and Fardeus and 20 seconds between Sebo and Clutch King in the Racing Point. On the other hand, we have about 1 second between Wrath and Blind. Look at these two. Brilliant performance from both of them. And I don't want to say anything wrong, but I believe that the last race has finished the same way, or was about to finish the same way, with Elliott on P1, Wrath on P2 and Blind on P3. Was it the other way around? Out. I'm immediately going to look that up. So let's have a look at that. And now it's my mistake. The last race was Elliott winning it, obviously, in Canada. But we had Sebo 55 on P2 and Wrath on P3. My mistake. I'm very sorry. Sorry to Sebo 55 that I didn't quite remember. But whatever. We still have 5 laps to go. for the drivers to finish their Grand Prix. So now at the moment, let's take a look at the standings, which we haven't done today. At the moment we still have the McLaren crew on P1, or it's not the McLaren crew, but it's rather the McLaren driver, with Seba 55 on P1 in the Constructors' Championship and in the Drivers' Championship with 84 points. We've got the Racing Point on P2 with Elliott having 59 points, and now Clutch King coming in to support the Racing Point team. Then we have Blind 30 in the Red Bull, obviously, but he's on 4th place with 19 points. In the Drivers' Championship, the Red Bull on 4th place in the Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors' Championship as well, Ferrari on 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship with 51 points. All of them have been scored by Farideus. And Rath and Ziflak in the Alfa Romeo on 5th place in the Constructors' Championship with 16 points at the moment. Yes, 16 points at the moment for all of our drivers here. In the Alfa Romeo, obviously. I'm sorry. It's been over confusing. But if you want to know more about this league or how to join it, you are welcomed to join our Discord that you can find down in the description. And also on Instagram there is an account, the F1 International Esports International account, where we post all about the races that we are doing each week. So if you want to have all the information you need to follow this channel, just go in onto the Discord in the description, or just join the Discord in the description, or follow the Instagram, or obviously follow us on YouTube. But now we'll return back onto the track. And we don't have much time left. There's about 2 laps left on this race. So 2 laps left to go. You can see here the stops that every driver did, and the tires and the car, and we have a yellow flag in sector 3, which is obviously which is resolved right now, so no problem there, and no penalties, which is something very rare to see in this category, in this in these races. And we had another overtake here, a little bit of a fight between Seba and Clutch King. Clutch King trying to go into the top 5. About half a second between the 2 drivers. Clutch King now on P6 and Seba on P5. And it's the last lap of the race. Is Clutch King going to be able to get himself P5? Or is he... Or does he have to be happy with P6? He's trying to go over the inside here, but it's not very successful. Maybe now in the chicane he can do it. No, he can't. And now we'll take a look at all the other drivers. We've got Elliott here going into the last laps of this race, so we can stay with the 2 to follow them. Maybe now on the inside for Clutch King. No, it's not going to be able. Last lap of the race, and he's going to use the DRS and the ERS to pass on Sebo 55. Now over the outside. Oh, that's a little bit of a touch between the two drivers. And Clutch King is going to go over the inside. Elliott has won this Grand Prix for himself. A race win for the Racing Point. And we will stay with the two here. Sebo trying to go over the inside, but Clutch King won't leave the space that is needed right there. Wrath, congratulations on a P2 as well. And Blind on a P3, so we have our podium. Faridos on P4 and Clutch King finishing on P5. Congratulations everyone. It has been a very much fantastic race from all of you guys. Brilliant racing from all of you. What a race. What a race it has been from all of you. We've had so many overtakes, we've had so much drama this race, and I am very, very glad with what we were able to see today. And if you were able with what you could see today, then obviously you may leave a like and follow. And now we will go on to the interviews. I'm just going to
Hello? Okay, if you're speaking. Sorry.
Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to see if any other drivers would want to come into the interview. And yes, we do have Faridays as well in the interview right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start this interview. Well, obviously, congratulations for another race win, the second consecutive for you. And I have to say congratulations also to the Racing Point team, as it has been a fantastic race for the Racing Point team. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I messed up lap 1. I went into the back of an Alfa Romeo, broke my wing, I went in, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to just stay out on these inters until the very last minute to make sure I can get on the soft tyres. And that's basically what happened. I was on 80% or something by the end. And then as soon as I came in, the DRS thing came up, meaning you could use the softer tyres, and that was it, really. Everyone else had to repit.
Yeah, well, but still, fantastic qualifying from you. Then, obviously, to gain that pole position, an unfortunate race start, but then a great race, a great rest of the race. I mean, this really was a fight that you guys put up, and we were able to see so much battles, so many overtakes that it really was interesting to watch. It was an amazing race, and well, as I said, congratulations to you for those 25 points for the win. And well,
it was fun. There was this bit where Faraday's, like, I think 2 laps later, binned it as well, and then me and him were just like charging through the field. It was actually quite fun going through all the AIs.
Exactly,
both of you. He'd overtake, and then I would follow him right behind, and yeah, I think he got stuck at one point, but it was good till then.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the interview.
Cheers.
Frodos.
Yeah, as Elliot said, it was a great battle between us. It was until a moment in turn 2. We were between a Mercedes and a Williams. I went from the inside, he from the outside, the Mercedes in the middle, and then like the Williams taught me, and Elliot could pass like from the outside, and it was, I don't know, it was a great battle between us. I really enjoyed that. But then when I stopped behind the Williams, he passed me, he overtook me, and then I got damaged with way in my front wing with the Williams. Also, I got a I got damaged in the third lap. I believe I I I don't know what happened. I crashed into the wall and then I had to go into the pits. But well done, Elliot. It was a great race, I believe.
So, about this great races, in Holland you were able to pick up a win. In Baku you were able to pick up a win. And in the last two races you haven't been able to get into the podium. Do you think that this is a problem that comes up just with the race? So AI crashing with the AI, problems with the car, or the wrong strategy? Or is it due to maybe the difficult drivers that you have to face right now?
Well, I believe that Elliot is a great driver. He's really fast. He always do a great job in qualifying. He always take the pole position. And he's really cruel because he always do a slower lap and then he goes and wow, here a pole lap here. And then I think these last two races I lack of consistency. Like Holland and Baku, it was great because I didn't have to pit for to change my front wing. But this one, Canada, I crashed into a wall and I rocked all the car. And here in Austria, well, the same lack of consistency. Also, weather wasn't in our favor, I believe, but I think it was the funniest race we had in the league.
So yeah, rain obviously is not as easy to drive on, but as I was able to understand, you are going to try to get on the podium next week again, or to
Yeah,
fight back.
obviously, yeah. I will try to practice a little more, but because these days I wasn't home until Saturday, and well, it wasn't easy, but I don't know. I just have to be more consistent and try to take care of the car.
Well, thank you, Faridaus, for the interview. Thank
No,
all
thank
of
you.
you, and yeah, it has been a great race. Fantastic from all of the guys, and we'll see you next week, where we will race for the round 8 in Silverstone, so in England. Thank you for watching this Grand Prix, and thank you for staying with us. If you like what you've seen, obviously leave a follow, or join our Discord if you want to join the league, if you want to race with us. And obviously follow us on Instagram as well if you want to always stay updated on the latest informations of the F1 Esport International League. Thank you everybody, and thank you for watching.